Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Get out of the way.
Who is this crowd?
Go on.
Hakuna Matata.
That help them camouflage from their predators. Just like that okapi out there to our right hand side, it's kind of hiding behind the tree there. Now okapis do have a zebra striped hind leg, but they're not related to zebras at all. They're actually the only living relative to the giraffe. Now we can tell that they're related to giraffes because they have the same little cones on top of their heads that giraffes do. Those are called ossicones. They have a very similar walking pattern and very similar long prehensile tongues as well. We're actually heading around towards a watering hole, and watering holes are great places to find animals resting or relaxing. Let's see what we can find down here. There are a couple of greater kudu up here. They're on the right-hand side at the very top of the hill. They kind of look like deer up there. There's actually a black rhino out to our left-hand side as well. Now, unfortunately, it is becoming harder and harder to find black rhinos because they are being poached for their horns. Now, their horns are believed to have a medicinal value, but they actually have no value at all. They're made out of keratin, the same thing that's in our fingernails and hair. Now, because of that poaching, there's less than 5,000 black rhinos left in the world, which is why they're so hard to find. Those greater kudu at the top of the hill are female, I can tell because they don't have any horns on top of their heads. Only the male kudu have horns, and they have the longest horns out of all of the antelope, reaching about 71 inches in length. Over here to our left-hand side, these are bongos. They're kind of hiding behind the bushes. Now, bongos are known as the ghosts of the forest. That's because they're rarely seen, and rightfully so. They love to hide behind bushes and trees. Now, bongos do have some pretty sloped back horns. It helps them run really fast through the brush. It also helps to ensure they don't get caught up in the brush while they're running. Now, it's actually not look like we're going to find any more animals on this side of the forest, so we're going to make our way on down to the Safi River. Now, the Safi River is my favorite place to go looking for hippos. Now, hippos are among the largest and most dangerous animals here in Africa. At birth, they can weigh about 85 pounds, and as adults, about 5,000 pounds. I'm not quite seeing. Oh, there's actually two right there in the water there to our right-hand side, just below the surface. There's actually a few more coming up here to our left-hand side. Now, hippos do spend the majority of their days submerged in the water. They only really come out to feed at night. They can stay fully submerged for about 8 minutes at a time. They'll come up for air, and they usually go right back under. Now, those great birds on the island in front of the hippos, those are pink-backed pelicans. They get that name from the pink coloration of their feathers during their mating season. Now, when hippos do come out of the water to go searching for food, they have about a 6-mile search radius, and they'll eat about 80 to 90 pounds of vegetation every single day. Now, even though they do know how to swim through the water, they actually prefer to walk along the bottom. That's because they are very, very dense, and it's usually pretty hard for them to float. A little further up here to our left-hand side, there are some Nile crocodiles down there on the island and in the water. Now, Nile crocodiles are cold-blooded animals. They don't sweat, so to keep themselves cool, they do like to open their jaws for some pretty long periods of time. Now, their jaws are very, very strong. They can crush up to 2,000 pounds worth of weight per square inch. That comes really in handy during lunchtime, which we're not sticking around for, so we're going to get out of here. Now it does look like we're heading out of the forest and river area and into the savannah, one of my favorite parts of the reserve. Now the very first thing we're going to see here on the savannah is coming up to our right hand side. You can kind of see it out here to the left. There is a baobab tree. Now it does look like it's been uprooted and planted back upside down. That's because they are leafless about 9 months out of the year. They only really gain their leaves during the rainy season. Now they're also known as the upside down tree or the tree of life, and they can live for up to 2,000 years. Now, the savannah is home to some of Africa's most popular animals, including lions, giraffes, elephants, and zebras. I actually see part of a herd of white-bearded wildebeest kind of migrating across the grasslands there, so we're going to try to get a closer look at them. Now, wildebeest does mean wild beast. It's right there in the name. They're also called gnus, G-N-U, for the low grunting sound they make. That sounds like new. Now, wildebeest do like to travel in very large herds, mostly in the hundreds and the thousands, and when they sleep at night, they do like to sleep in rows along the ground. That gives them the comfort of being in a large herd, but also the safety to run in case of an emergency. Now, there is also a giraffe coming down here to our right-hand side. It's kind of grazing along that tree. Let's see. Now, giraffes are the tallest animals in the world. They range from 16 to 20 feet tall. At birth, they're about 6 feet tall. There are about 9 different subspecies of giraffes, and the particular one you see here on the reserve is a Maasai giraffe. We can tell that because of their spot pattern. It's a little more splotchy than other giraffes. Now, coming a little further out here to our right-hand side, there are some small little tan and white animals. Those are springbok. Springbok are very cool animals. They can jump about 6 feet into the air from a standing position and leap about 13 feet forward. And when they get scared or excited, they do this thing called pronking. It's like running and hopping at the same time. Now, they do look very tiny. That's actually as big as they get. They only grow to be about 2 to 3 feet tall. Now, over here to our left-hand side, they're kind of hard to see. Just behind the tree here to our back left, there is an African wild dog. It just laid right back down on the ground. You have to look very closely. Well, they're also known as painted dogs for the brushstroke-like markings on their fur. They are the most successful hunters here in Africa. That's because they will chase their prey until it falls flat from exhaustion. Now, to put that into perspective, lions catch their prey about 40% of the time. African wild dogs will catch their prey about 90 to 95% of the time. They are pack hunters, and they usually hunt in packs of between 9 to 15. Now, there are some orange cone structures sticking out of the ground all over the savannah. Those are termite mounds. Now, termite mounds are made out of dirt, saliva, and dung. They're about as hard as concrete. Elephants like to use them as scratching posts, and then when they're worn down enough, small animals like antelope will stand on top of them to watch out for predators. Now, out here to our left-hand side, there are a couple of sable antelope over there. Now, sable antelope are the official emblem of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. They all have a brown fur color, but the males tend to be a little darker, ranging from dark brown to almost jet black. Actually, it looks like the giraffes are crossing the road a little further up ahead. Now, giraffes do spend the majority of their days eating. They only really sleep for about 30 minutes per day. When they do sleep, they like to sleep standing up. And that's because it is pretty hard for them to get down on all fours and very hard to get back up from being down. So they only really lay down on the ground when they feel safe. And when they do sleep, they don't sleep all 30 minutes at the same time. They'll actually take a few short 30-second to about 5-minute naps throughout the day. Now, giraffes are super tall, but that's not the only large quality about them. They also have some pretty large hearts, weighing up to about 25 pounds, and some pretty long tongues. They're about 18 inches long. Coming up here to our right hand side, there is an Ankole cattle. There's quite a few more coming up ahead as well. They've got some pretty long horns. Now, their horns can be about 3 to 4 feet long each. They look pretty heavy, but they're actually not. The inside of their horns is a honeycomb structure and acts as a cooling system for the cattle, kind of like having an air conditioner on top of your head.
I need one of those.
Now, the Ankole cattle are the only domesticated animals here on the reserve. They were first domesticated by the Watusi tribe as a sign of wealth. That's also where they get their nickname, the Watusi cattle.
Wagon wheel Watusi. Sorry, I had to.
Now, it does look like we're heading towards Monkey Point, which is a great place to find mandrills. Mandrills are the largest and most colorful monkeys in the world, but they do like to hide here on the reserve. So if you see any coming up to our left-hand side before I do, just let me know. Now there's actually one right on top of their hucks there, kind of standing along that log that's fallen over. Well, like I said, they are the most colorful monkeys in the world. They mostly only have colors on their faces and backsides. Now the males do tend to have the brighter colors, and when they get excited, they get even brighter. It does also look like we're getting pretty close to elephant country as well. There's a male elephant way out there to our right hand side. Now, I do know that that's a male elephant because he's all by himself. They typically stay with their family groups until they're about 9 to 13 years old, and then they will go off on their own. Now, sometimes they do form small bachelor herds, but it's not very often that they do. Now, it looks like the road that we normally take down to elephant country is closed and gone. So we're going to take this shortcut up ahead. We're going to go try to find a family herd of elephants. It does look like we're going to have to cross this old bridge. Looks like it's seen some better days. So we're going to go pulley across it. That means very slowly. It's funny. It looks like the warden tried to fix this bridge without too. Oh no. Oh no. Everybody get right. Get right. That was the left, everyone, but really good try. Are y'all okay back there? Good, good. I'm fine too. Thanks for asking. Well, it does look like we've reached the red clay pits. This is where the family herd of elephants likes to hang out. There are some test marks in the clay. That's a really good sign they've been through recently. So let's see if we can find them out here. Now, elephants are facing habitat destruction due to the mining of coltan. That's a mineral that's found inside of electronics. So a pretty awesome thing you can do to help elephants out is to recycle old cell phones and electronics that you don't plan on using ever again. Because the more recycled coltan that we have, the less that needs to be mined, and the less elephants that have to leave their homes. Just like rhinos, elephants are facing a very serious poaching issue. About 96 elephants a day are losing their lives due to the poaching of their ivory tusks. That's one elephant every 15 minutes. So another really great way to help them out is to not purchase anything made from ivory. Well, elephants do have some very sensitive skin, so they like to throw dirt or mud onto their backs to help act as a natural sunblock for them.
Oh, the baby.
There's actually a baby elephant. She's kind of hiding about that wall right between the trees and the other elephant. It's very hard to see. And they will also flap those very large ears. That'll help cool them off a little bit. Their ears act as a giant fan for them, cooling them down about 15 degrees. Elephants are actually pregnant for about 22 months at a time. That's almost 2 years long. And they do come out at about 300 pounds when they're born. Another really cool thing the warden taught me about elephants is that they're actually very afraid of bees. So farmers in Kenya are using that information to put beehive fences around their normal crops. That way the elephants don't destroy them and they won't hurt the elephants. Further up here to our left-hand side, there is a flamboyance of greater flamingos. Greater flamingos are the lightest pink of the flamingo species. They get that pink coloration from the brine shrimp and brill that they eat. Now, they won't exactly get their pink feathers until about a year after birth. It does take quite a while for those diets to kick in. If you've ever wondered why flamingos stand on one leg, it's actually just temperature regulation. It's kind of like when you're laying in bed and you stick one leg out of the blanket. You laugh because it's true. It actually looks like we're wandering into white rhino territory. There's quite a few coming up ahead to our left-hand side. It's actually walking towards us here. White rhinos actually get their names from the mispronunciation of the Afrikaans word "weit," meaning wide, for their broad mouths. They are also being poached for their horns, but they're a little more common than black rhinos are. Well, unlike elephants, rhinos don't have very large ears to cool themselves off with, so they do like to roll around in mud pits. That'll give them a nice cool layer of mud and acts as a sunscreen for them as well. Now, both black and white rhinos are actually gray. The only big difference between the two is that the white rhino is a bit larger, and they also have that broader mouth shape. On the very far right end of the hill, there are two cheetahs. They're laying down at the very top there, kind of in between these last two trees. So you gotta look really close. They're in the shade. You kind of blend in with the ground as well. Now, cheetahs are the fastest land animals. They run from 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds. They're some of the only big cats that do their hunting during the day. And they're also some of the only cats with non-retractable claws, so their claws are out all the time. And one of my favorite things I've learned about cheetahs is that they don't roar and snarl like other big cats. They actually meow and purr like house cats. Now, speaking of big cats, this rock formation in front of us is a kopie, and kopies are great places to find lions resting. Now, lions are nocturnal animals. They're usually very hard to find during the day, but keep your eyes open as we go around the kopie. We might get lucky enough to find one. There's actually another white rhino out there to our right hand side. It's kind of grazing out there, just a few a little further back. Coming around this corner here to our left-hand side, there are some warthog burrows, and I do see a warthog up there. It looks like there's two of them up there. Oh, it's just fun. Now, warthogs are the largest burrowing mammals. They like to burrow their own burrows, but they will also use burrows left behind by other small animals. Now, when they do go into the burrows, they like to back into them. That's because they use their tusks as a defense system. Their tusks are razor sharp, and it helps to ward off any predators. There are some zebras out here to our left. There's actually going to be one on the right-hand side as well, a little further up here. Now, zebras are actually black with white stripes. We can tell that because of their noses. They do also have a pretty strong hind leg. When kicked, could break the jaw of a lion. Down there to the right-hand side, there's actually some ostrich eggs laying on the ground. Now, ostrich eggs weigh about 3 pounds each. A grown man or an ostrich could stand on top of one of those eggs, and it would not break. Coming up here to our right-hand side, it's kind of hiding between the trees. There is a scimitar horned oryx up there. They get that name from the Middle Eastern scimitar sword because their horns look just like it. And those guys can go up to 9 months without drinking water. That's because they don't sweat until their body temperature reaches about 150 degrees. A little further up here to our right-hand side, there's a couple of yellow-billed stork. Now, yellow-billed stork are carnivorous little birds. They like to eat frogs, fish, and other small birds. Anything they can really fit into their bills. They only stand about 3 feet tall, but they do have a pretty impressive wingspan, reaching about 5 feet long. Now, it does look like our safari is coming to its end. I'm going to be bringing you back to the village. If you'd like to learn more about how you can help the beautiful animals we've seen today, such as the elephants, the rhinos, and even those cheetahs, just talk to the villagers back in Harambe about the Disney Conservation Fund.